Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Caddie podcast. I believe this is number 4, right, Rustin?
Yes, sounds
Yeah,
about
number
right.
number 4. Time's
Moving along
flying,
quickly
man.
here.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So I know the last episode we had the finalists, who are a couple of friends of ours who are finalists for the drive, chip, and putt. And man, I sure enjoyed watching them and the other competitors. Uh, and another friend of ours, Alexa Fong, winning her second DCP finals. What a great event for them.
Yeah, it was actually her second championship. She's
Yeah,
been to the
that's what I'm saying.
finals
Yeah,
like
4 times, right?
four
Right.
times, and then she
Yeah,
finished third one year. I believe that's accurate.
yeah. That
Um,
girl, she's
yeah,
something else. She is something else. And a side note, and Tim's gonna love me talking about this, but she loves to fish. It's funny every place she goes, she tries to find a hole to go fishing in. So, but
here's another tidbit about her that you may or may not know. She was a world champion chess player.
really,
Yeah, when she was, I know we played with her a lot when she was like 8 and 9, and then her
yeah,
dad had shown me a picture of her with this trophy that was bigger than she was at the time. That she had won this like world champion chess event. So there you go. She's a
that's pretty cool.
multi-talented young lady.
That is really cool, really cool. So yeah, and watching White and Ava compete was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome to see Wyatt get the chip in, have that moment, you know, have that moment on the big stage, and Ava able to finish third in her age group. Overall in the nation for drop, chip, and putt was a huge accomplishment. And a lot of fun to watch from our seats at least. No pressure from us.
Yeah, I remember I got to talk a little bit with Wyatt and his dad after the finals, and they were talking about some of the things. His dad was talking about goosebumps, when he chipped in, and then also it was amazing, walking between the chipping area and the putting area is a pretty long walk because you're walking literally from the range to the 18th green, and you're walking down a little avenue, and it's lined probably 6 people deep the whole way. And I mean, it's probably 400 yards long, and everybody is cheering for you as you're walking along. And he said that was one of the coolest things that he's been a part of.
Yeah, I remember the year that we haven't been lucky enough to be in it, but we did go watch it one year, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Just as they walk through and kind of tunnel through like they do the players, you know, during the week. They do that for the kids on that special Sunday for them. So yeah, that's a very cool visual for sure.
And he was telling me one of his highlights was meeting Jim Bones McKay at Waffle House
I mean,
there
not a
in
better
Augusta.
caddy out there, right?
Oh, right, right. He's
He should have gotten his information. We could have brought Bones on with us.
Yeah, yeah. No joke, no
So Bones,
joke.
if you're out there listening, give us a call. We'd love to have you on the show.
Yes. And Ava, winning third place out of thousands of kids that tried, right? I mean, because if you think about it, there's so many different locations of work. We'll talk about that, local tryouts, and you have sub regionals, and then regionals, and then your finals. But there's a lot of kids that start out trying to be one of those final 10, and for her to finish third was pretty amazing.
Yeah, she did a great job out there performing under pressure, and her drive, even getting second there overall, and you know, only about a few yards, I believe, that she missed out on getting first there. But it was quite a performance by Miss Frazier there.
Yeah, well, congrats to both of them.
Yeah, it was a
They're
lot of
great
fun to
guests
watch.
and great people. Couldn't root for a better group of people. So what we had talked about focusing today, Rustin, and you and I, is just talking about drive, chip, and putt, and how you get into the competition, what the competition is about, maybe some strategy for the competition, and then talk about what you expect at each location.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you got to register and sign up, right?
Right,
You can't go compete without registering. So,
right.
the obvious thing is go to dropchippingputt.com, go create your free account, go sign up, go find the location that, best suits your logistical needs and location, or if you want to travel a little bit, do that as well. But find a date that works for you, get your kids signed up. So that's dropchippingputt.com. Pretty self-explanatory once you get on there, register, follow the prompts, and get your kiddos signed up. Dropship and Putt is open to both boys and girls alike, ages 7 to 15. They kind of assign you to the appropriate age group, 7 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 to 13, and 14 to 15, accordingly. It's a great way where you're competing against most of your own peers within your age group. So it's a great opportunity. So go to Drop Chip and Putt, register, sign your kid up, find your local qualifier that's good for you.
So it's conducted in 4 stages: local qualifying, sub-regional qualifying, regional qualifying, and national finals. The local qualifying has 382 sites in all 50 states. Sub-regional is at 60 sites. Regional is at 10 sites. And then the winners of those 10 sites in all the age categories go to the national finals, which are held at Augusta National. And man, that list, I sent you that list earlier, Rustin. The list for this year's regionals is just ridiculous. We got Fields Ranch at PGA Frisco. We have Pebble Beach. We have Hazeltine National, 4 Seasons in Hawaii. Okay, so a little side note, when I looked that up, I was looking at where the Arizona people go, right? Because I was kind of looking at just clicked on some different towns. The Arizona, if you win in Scottsdale or Phoenix or wherever in Arizona, your regional is in Hawaii. So there you go.
And them poor
You go,
people.
yeah, you go from
Oh
Arizona to
man, I
Hawaii.
gotta take
Yeah,
a few days in Hawaii. Dang.
yeah, right, I know. So then you have Pinehurst, TPC Sawgrass, Valhalla, Laurel Valley, the Ridgewood Country Club,
Man, could you imagine
and
Pinehurst though? They're doing that on which chipping green, which putting
right, I
green over
know.
there,
Wow,
right?
yeah, you're right. We spend a lot of time on those hard greens.
Yeah,
You're exactly right.
that putting green is the size of like some neighborhoods.
Yeah, that 18 hole. I always tell people that 18 hole putting course that they had was impossible. If somebody scored a 24 on that, they're a master putter. I mean, not a 24, but
Yeah,
excuse me, a 40, a 40. If somebody scored a 40 on that,
it's
they
it's clown
they're
golf, as I like
yeah,
to say.
yeah, exactly. It's without the windmills, but it has the valleys for sure.
I don't
And
know. It
then
might have a few windmills out there.
that last course is what one of the regions will be held as Whistling Straits. Man, what a list of courses for this to be held at this year. So hopefully
Yeah,
we'll know some more people.
they got the cream of the crop on the courses on this front for sure.
Yes, sir. Now, one of the things that uh we were going to mention was you don't necessarily have to qualify, like your local qualifying. You don't necessarily have to qualify in your region. You can qualify, and that's when my daughter made the finals, we actually went through up into Missouri and then up through Colorado instead of coming from Oklahoma City down into Texas. And so you can go wherever you want. And we use that to kind of travel around and use it as a little mini vacation because you're only hitting 9 shots, right? You're traveling to hit 9 shots. So,
Yeah,
um,
some of it's hard to justify traveling for that, but sometimes the logistics don't work out too. So you kind of have
right,
to go somewhere else because, well, I'll just making up random dates. Like June 3rd is here in Austin, and then July 4th is down the road in Georgetown. Well, I have tournaments kind of locked up and pre-reserved before the schedule already tied up. So now I need to go to Dallas to qualify. Right, it happens. Or
right.
in some cases, maybe I want to leave the state because I have family in another state and it's fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
but you're not tied to your region for sure, like you are on like other sports like Little League, where you have to play within certain districts. You're allowed to go as of now wherever you want and willing
And I
to.
thought, yeah, and I love that. Our regional was at Castle Pines, and Castle Pines is one of the most beautiful places that I've set foot on. I mean, just the mountains and everything in Castle Rock, Colorado was
All
pretty
the
nice.
all the courses out there in Colorado are obviously nice because of the mountain backgrounds and stuff like that. So my brother lives out in Colorado, so we played golf a few times out there, and it's just the scenery out there is ridiculous. But yeah, Castle Pines is nice.
Now
I think we
hitting,
went to Colorado Golf Club one time out there. Yeah,
okay,
out in
okay,
Parker, really beautiful.
hitting off of bent grass and the range was a different situation though. You
Oh
can definitely lay
yeah,
some beaver pellets off of the you can lay some over that it's a different grass to hit off of
I
for
never
sure. You
thought
can,
about that from the fairway
yeah,
perspective. I always thought about
yeah,
that from the green perspective.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
no
pretty
green. That'd be
interesting.
weird, right?
Yeah,
For us
a hundred
Texas
percent.
people, you know.
Yeah. Well, talk about the scoring, Rustin. What do you? And yeah, it's always the same, right? You start at the driving, then you go to the chipping, then you go to the putting.
Well, believe it or not, this is gonna be funny. It's called drop, tip, and putt. There's some PJ sections that don't do it in that order.
Really?
Have you ever been to
Man,
one that does that? Yeah, I haven't either, but the Frasers have and some other friends, well, they'll do like tipping and then putting and then drop. I'm like, you have one job,
yeah, yeah. It's in
drop,
the name.
tip, and
It's
putt.
in the name.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure for some courses, the logistics might be easier to kind of go that route, with depending on where their range is and stuff like that. So I'm sure that's why. But it's just jokes aside, in a lot of cases, it goes in the order: drive, chip, then putt. But once in a while, you get a curveball thrown at you, and it's a little different order.
Well, so let me back up real quick. This is a collaboration between the Master Tournament, the USGA, and the PGA of America. Um, and it started in 2013, but the PGA of America really runs the, in from what I've seen, really runs all the local events and region and all the way through regionals. And there are 41 different sections of PGA of America that run those. So I thought that was they do a really good job. Running every one of them. Make the kids feel special, which is important to me. I know both of us.
Yeah, it's we've had experience with the PGA sections here in Texas, both southern and northern, and then we use experience some of the Colorado ones as you have as well. And yeah, class acts on all those events, how they're set up, and how they run, how they make the kids feel. It's funny that kids that when we first started were competing in it have actually now gone to volunteering and interning at them, that we've seen kind of move through the process, and now they're
Right.
the kids doing sitting there marking your ball for scoring. It's pretty funny how that kind of transition happens and works. But um, yeah, it's,
Right, because their experience, just like moving through, like you're talking about, the first winner of the 7 and 9 division was Akshay Bhatia in 2013, and he was the first person to get to play at the Masters after winning the Dog Chip and Putt. That's pretty neat. That's a pretty good way to move through, right? Move through and play the Masters one day.
who would have thought? I wonder who would have thought, 10 years from now, I'm going to be playing in the Masters.
Right?
Or
Yeah,
roughly 10 years, right?
yeah,
Like,
and
who would have thought?
multiple players are now on their various tours. Um, we had Rick Pano on, and Alexa is obviously on the LPGA tour. Just wish her the best of luck this year. Um, and others I know for sure. But Russell, tell me about the scoring. How do we score this thing?
Yeah, so obviously for driving, a lot of it's based off distance, right? The further you hit it, the
Right.
more points you're going to get within a 40-yard grid wide. Um, it kind of gets goofy up until about 100 yards, but after 100 yards, it's about a point per 10 yards. So at 100 yards, you're getting 5 points. So, do some basic math, but your typical 250 is going to give you about, what is it, 20 points if my math is right today?
Right. Yep.
And so obviously, you know, got to keep it within the grid. One thing I did ask, and this probably comes in the occasion more with the older boys, because I actually asked this question last year at our subs: what happens if you go 350?
Yeah.
As long as it stays within that 40-yard width, it's a max, obviously, of 25. So, um, you know, this curiosity killed the cat, so to speak. I was like, hey, what happens
Hey,
if? Because, boys are going to put it out there sometimes. So,
they're going to have to start. I guarantee you, they're going to have to start doing maybe adding an extra point for longer yardages here pretty soon. Just how quick, how all the speed training and everything else, which I know we've talked about, but all the speed training and other ways they're hitting it so long these days, they're going to be doing that. But I'll let you move
yeah,
on,
it'll
Rustin.
be
Sorry.
interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good point, though. But that's the basics of the driving. Obviously, they have to be in the grid, and do you hit them out of the grid, and you get 0 points for those shots. And those are the only shots that you don't get any points for. Hitting, chipping, and putting, you immediately get a minimum of 1 point in those categories. So, drive is the only one that you can get a goose egg in, and it does happen. Um, Especially as they get older. Seems like when you're younger, it's easier to. We used to consider driving bonus points when we were younger, and now it's what
Right.
kind of separates you from uh, certain other kids at times. It's
Yes,
funny how
sir.
that philosophy changes. And I want you to run us through the chipping portion of the scoring.
Yeah. So there's 3 chips, and they're measured from the distance from the center of the hole. Um, a ball coming to rest on the scoring line will be awarded a higher point value. Um, so the there's circles around the hole, and those circles are 2 feet apart. So it's 2 feet. So it's a you can make the shot obviously. Then you've got the 2 foot, and anything between the hole and 2 feet is 20 points. Then 2 to 4 is 15. 4 to 6, 10, 5, and after 10 feet, you get 1 point. And so this is it's you usually chip from around 15 yards. The chipping, and it varies per regional, because I've definitely talked to you and our friend Mr. Crane about the different regionals you participated in, and it seems like they have a kind of a different type of chip every one of them, and they're all about the same length per se, but maybe a different, it might slope more. The speed, it might go downhill. One might go uphill. Um, so it definitely varies from different regions. Set that up differently
I would
but it's
say
they're
that
generally from the same length.
the chip, I've seen it vary so much from the organization who's running it to local sub regionals, right? I think the first few we ever went to, they can say 15 yards. That thing was like right on the collar, and the flag was maybe just over the 10-foot circle. Like if you landed on the green, you were getting inside that circle. I've seen it set up that easy where you could basically chip it in, um, and I've seen it set up on the opposite end of that, where you got to fly that thing 15 yards to land it on the green, the putting surface, and then it's sloping away and going. Like, how in the hell do you do this? I've seen it set up in 3-inch rough.
Yeah, like
So it's
last year, right? Or 2 years ago. 2 years ago, down in Houston, right?
that was impossible. That was
Now,
brutal.
a unique point though is you have to use a club. You cannot use your putter. You have to use something else besides the putter.
You can
So,
use anything but a putter.
right,
And I think you can
anything.
even use a
Yep.
chipper if you wanted to.
100.
Yep.
Yes, yes, sir. Well, I know we're going to talk strategy here in a minute. We'll get into that. But what about the putting, Rustin?
Yeah, it's very, very similar to chipping, just a little bit narrower distances. Like Aaron described earlier, there's big circles around the hole, and then you're putting from 6, 15, and 30 feet. You get one putt from each of those distances. Obviously, Like I said, it's just a little more narrow. So it's 1 foot and under, and then 1 to 2 feet, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. And then outside of that, then, that's the 1 pointer, so to speak. And each of those, the closer it is on the point system, it's obviously if you hold it, it's 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, 1, and so on. Putting, obviously, just like set up with chipping, I've seen it where it's super simple. I've seen it super crazy.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And
so, and my general experience, for the most part, will say that it's easier at local and it gets gradually harder at each level until regionals, and it
yes.
gets exponentially harder at regionals. And then Augusta, well, that's Augusta. We'll leave that one alone. Um,
We'll talk about that here in a second for sure. But what's unique is you have 9 shots at the local, sub-regional, and regional, and then in Augusta, obviously, and we'll talk about those. You don't have those 9 shots. It's scored a little differently, but at the local level, 3 participants in that age group move forward to the sub-regional. Then from the sub-regional to the regional, 2 contestants move forward, the top 2, and then from the regional, 1 contestant moves from the regional to the finals at Augusta National.
yeah, and it's the most stressful 9 shots of your life.
100%. 100%. You're driving, and we were joking about that, because Castle Rock's 12 hours from our house, and so we drove up there, and we're
Oh,
driving 12 hours to hit 9 shots. But just in junior golf, and that's going to kind of be the theme of our whole thing, is try to make it fun outside of the golf course, right? Because we had a blast just exploring around there and seeing everything, and it's just beautiful and just a different atmosphere than Norman, Oklahoma. So, um, so we had a great time up there. Let's talk about some ancillary things. How what's your practice? How did you practice? And I know you changed it up kind of every year that you've qualified. So, you've attempted. So what do you suggest? What about your driving? What do you think when you drive?
on the drive, let me come back to driving because I want to hit putting. That's my favorite one to talk
Yeah,
about
no
because I
problem.
think I think DCP putting and tournament golf putting is completely different. Some people disagree. Some people don't
No, I
buy this
agree.
philosophy, and that's fine. But they're giving you 20 points in putting if you just think your way through it and you just intentionally try to leave the ball on the cup. Don't hit it too hard. Just it's a 6 foot putt. You can hit that 5.5 feet all day long. um, so our philosophy with putting is always dying them in versus more aggressive putting in tournaments. Maybe the 30 footer, we leave that one normal because that's a low percentage putt as it begins with. But the 6 and 15 for sure. We practice speed slowness over speed firmness in a sense. Um, but you obviously when you're practicing putting for any tournament, especially DCP, when you know the perceived distances, you're kind of going around the hole practicing 6 that are up, down, left, right. Same thing with 15, same thing with 30, because you're going to get one of each flavor just about at every event.
So how did you mark your distances? What do you use to mark your distances from the hole? Obviously, at a course you can't really put the circles on the greens. So what would you use? We use tees and coins. So
So
what would you use?
we've done tees. T-Jet is very good about Texas Junior Golf Tour, FYI, about giving these little flat ball lockers and just push down in.
Yeah.
These little plastic ones. And so Ron would actually make a whole circle around the green,
Yeah.
pushing them in.
No, yeah, that's
She
all.
liked
Yeah.
using that. And so she would set up different stations. A lot of times when we're really focused on it, still give herself like 3 different 6 foot putts and 3 different, that way we were playing it 3 different ways and you can kind of multiply the games you're playing. So, because after a while with putting, you start to memorize it, right? So that's the
Right.
intent is to try not to memorize it or, you know. But yeah, that's how we would kind of go through our practice process for that, So I mean, at the end of the day, putting is putting. You can work on speed and do other things that you would do for normal tournament golf or just normal playing golf. But you know, 6, 15, and 30 might become your best friends.
Right. No, it's yeah, we use coins, like you said, put them at four, put them behind the hole, and then in front of the hole, not right on the line we're putting, but just to see, take a, use a foot, every foot, every shoe is a foot pretty much. So you put it right at the end of your shoe, you put a coin and do that. We also did some tees and then what about chipping? What do you what'd y'all do for chipping?
Chipping is one of those things where I don't think we do anything too different. It's just a lot of repetition. Obviously there's shorter fringe-based putts, chips for the most part. Um, the biggest thing, at least in Texas, is it's very grainy, right? Into the green,
Well, the
Bermuda.
Bermuda, right? Right.
It's almost always into the green. So we practice a lot of into the green chipping just to make sure strike is important, right? Because even if you duff one, you at least still get a point. But
So
that's sometimes the difference.
what's your tip on reading the grain? Because there's so many different ways people, you know, say to look at the hole and whichever, how the coal's cut,
The
whichever
burn
side
edges.
of, yeah, which,
We we
it's
uh we and Rylan probably understands this better than I do. So we need to get her on for this one. But when we were in Pinehurst, when we were 11 or 12, we were playing just a casual round because when we used to go out there, we would stay for a month. And I would just rent the condo for the whole time and I would work from there and so forth. Nonetheless, we were playing with this guy at who had a PhD in grain reading. And so we were playing with some friends of ours at Pinehurst on number 5. And he would give us the breakdown of where it was going. And his son was a super, super solid player. I think he's actually won worlds before. But he would go to the hole and show us how the burnt edges worked, especially in Pinehurst, because I've always felt Pinehurst is a little more grainy than even here in Texas and stuff like that.
100%. There's no
Um,
doubt.
especially
Those
towards right at
downhill
the end of the
putts,
hole. It was
those downhill
super
putts that
grainy right at the hole.
yeah, yeah, those downhill putts at Pinehurst were just ridiculous. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially on 5, right? On some of them. That was the only defense on 5s. Because, yeah, I've seen people put them off the greens before there. But yeah,
Yep.
um, so he was talking about burnt edges and stuff like that, and especially towards the end, once you got within that last 2 feet of break, he said was the most important in terms of grain because that's typically how it's going to influence it the most. But I'm not a grain expert. I need a class myself. Um, it's because it's
I
tricky.
like you. Yeah, I like using the burnt edge, for one, but it, I try to make it even simpler than that is just look at the green. And if you're watering that green, where's the water going to roll to?
Yeah,
Because if whichever way the water rolls off the green, that's going to be the way the grain's going.
it almost has to be.
So yeah, so I just try to, because golf is hard enough, right? I always love that poster of the swing thoughts of VJ Singh. It was a joke, but all I think titles or some other manufacturer put it out. All the swing thoughts of VJ Singh, the 1,000 swing thoughts, all these different sayings on this poster, and it was always great. So you can definitely overthink your way in golf, and you
Yeah,
can
for
get
sure.
paralysis through analysis for sure. But what? So from a club standpoint, though, because different chips demand different clubs. Now, unless you're Phil Mickelson uses 60 on everything. I don't necessarily agree with that because it depends on how much green you have to work with and things like that. So what do you like to use?
Um, my kiddo is like Phil. She loves the 58. She can hit it low. She can hit it high. She's just super comfortable, and that's really not the right answer. I don't like that, but that's who she is, and I mean, it's her decision at the end of the day. Um,
Right, and
she's
that's the
just as
thing.
good unless it's
Yeah.
a super long chip. Then she'll bust out a 54, but I mean, it has to be significant because she's just real comfortable with that because she's used it for so long, and I don't know if she just likes to grind on it or what it is, but um, yeah, like she knows how to do off it and run it, hit bumper runs with it that release like a 54. So she
I
just
think
prefers to
the
manipulate it. I don't get it, but that's what she does.
I think the changes in the soles and the different grinds have really made it to where you can use those clubs in a lot more situations. Because I was always one that loved, the 7-9 and 60, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the longer you have back to the hole, that little 7-iron works nicely. Get it on the green, you start running because you can never count on the spin, right? You can don't ever count on the spin because that green might not hold like you want it to. But kids these days, it's like we're now those 80-year-old grumpy men sitting on the park bench. Those kids these days, but they do work those wedges pretty nice.
I also think that the modern equipment and the modern balls generate more spin than when obviously we
Yeah,
were growing up playing. And so
one hundred
like
percent.
you can't, I mean, I've watched your friends chip or just a little chip and it's not very far and it hits, checks and spins. I'm like, okay, there you go. So what do I know? Don't listen to me. But at the end of the day, it's what you're
Yeah,
comfortable over, what you're confident about. And if it's a 7-iron, that works for you. If it's a 4 hybrid,
yep,
that works for you.
yep.
I've seen it
No, I
all,
know.
whatever works. So, um, but in theory, yeah, the approach should be utilize your wedges. I know, for example, to talking about Ava again, she is very much one who chips with almost all of her clubs. Like I've seen her use like gap wedges and pitching wedges and even 7-irons on some of these shots before. So it's yeah, I think that is a good philosophy to have is practice with different clubs and get comfortable that way with feel. But every individual is unique in what they see and what they feel. That's one thing that I learned through one of Ron's coaches was saying the line that you see isn't necessarily the same line that she sees. And so you have to allow her to get to the line that she sees, even if it's not the way you play. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that she's wrong. You just have a different artistic way of getting the ball at the hole.
Well, that's golf, right? Everybody has unique aspects of their golf swings. Now, you need to arrive at the same place at the ball as everybody else, generally, with a little bit of hands in front, to really compress that ball. But everybody has a different way to get there in some shape or form. And that's the beauty about golf. I really love is that everybody is their own person, and the identity of the swing is just unique to that person. Um, there's some swing thoughts and some swing coaches out there these days that are teaching one swing and all this. I just don't. I mean, I don't necessarily like that because, gosh, throughout history, you have so many colorful people and golf swings that just that was their identity. Furet, Palmer. I mean, a lot of others, but so yeah, the choices are individual, right? It's just to what you feel the most comfortable with, because golf is all about how comfortable you are in the most pressure situations, especially at the levels that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting because TaylorMade just dropped the video on their YouTube video, right, with Nelly and Tiger and others sipping. And then Tiger was asking Nelly, what do you see? Because I see this. She hits her shot. She's a fly, check, check, grab kind of girl, right? And it ends up a foot from the hole. Tiger goes, this is how I see it. This is the vision I see. His was more of a draw chip, hit, release, hits the pin, of course, because Tiger's the GOAT. Both fantastic results, but two very different ways of getting to the hole. So, yeah, at the end of the day, it is swing your swing. And I think people sometimes get too hung up
It,
in
it,
the perfect
it's like the
takeaway, the
old,
perfect top position. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. It matters where you are at impact, you
it's
know?
like the old Warsack test, right? The ink blots, you see different things, but and eh, that's the greatness of those of the especially the people you were just talking about. I mean, Nelly and is at the top of the LPGA tour and has been for a couple years now, and Tiger, I believe. And some people can try to debate, but I don't think there is one that he's the best of all time. And so just I had the chance to watch him when he opened up a first tee facility here in Oklahoma City, and just the shots that he was going through and doing that day were just amazing. And but you know, I digress. We're talking about drive, chip, and putt, and we can definitely go off on that tangent all day long. But
Yeah, we've had a chance to see Tiger. I've had to see him twice in person, actually 3 times. Ron's seen him twice because when Dale Match Play was here in Austin, right before he won the Masters, we watched the practice round, and I said he's about to win the Masters. I called it then because you could just hear it; it was clicking differently. How he was hitting the ball that week when I watched him, and then we saw him with the Masters 2 years ago at the practice round. Just yeah, fun stuff.
so
Watching those guys.
so I know that when let's rock, we can put a bow on this by talking about, you know, every year we did a little differently when we tried to make it. And I talked about, we were fortunate enough, Harlow was fortunate enough to make it 1 year, 2 years ago. And I kind of faked her into getting prepared for that by when she was out there chipping, I'd say, hey, hit 30 balls for this location, or hey, let's putt from these 6-foot putts. And then the next day we do 15, the next day we do 30. And just different, just not focusing solely and just thinking about drive, chin, putt every time you're out there doing that. But one thing that we didn't talk about, and I want you to talk about what I just mentioned about, each year, but one thing we didn't talk about and how important it is to make sure you have a routine and make sure you go through that every single time, because that routine is going to be what you lean on when you're under pressure and you're taking those deep breaths to make that putt. So that's how what I'm thinking on how we did it, Rustin. So what did you change up?
Yeah, so on driving, what we like to do is we have a a hole in our local course. It's pretty tight. Typically, you never hit driver on, but when we're working on DCP, what we do, we're pulling out a driver. Why? Because it narrows that focus down. It focuses on that accuracy. It allows you to hit it on like a 20-yard fairway. Then when you step on that 40-yard fairway, that thing looks huge. So I like to mimic as narrow a spots as we possibly can. And even the old field goal drill, when you're hitting drivers, you put 2 little lineman sticks in front of you and you have to hit it between those, and you tighten that up because that means your start line is on key, especially when you're in the range. It's a good drill to do anyway. But specifically when you're working on, like, hey, you got to stay within the tree lines to the red flag, which you can walk it off and, it's 15, 20 yards wide. Obviously narrow your focus when you're practicing, because then it makes the bigger target look a lot bigger than it really is. So when you step up there that day, it'll always look small, but you practice narrow, then, as they say, aim small, miss small, right? So
That's right.
that's our
That
favorite
is
thing to
exactly
do
right.
with driving practice. We actually do that we do that all year, actually. It's not something just for DCP, but we try to really be accurate that way. And that's one of the drills that we kind of do, is in terms of how we practice that accuracy, and it translates to DCP perfectly.
Right. So one of the things, Rick Pano discussed on the driving was how they did it. I loved it. They would get in a traffic jam. He'd give her 3 balls and go hit down the field next to him. That's just put that pressure on. I thought that was a great thing. But one of the things I was going to discuss was the finals, right? How they scored the finals, because it's not 9 shots anymore, right? It's not 9 shots. So you have 2 drives, and it's the longest of the 2 drives. And then on chipping, how they score chipping.
Yeah, it's all cumulative, right? To the hole.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then the
Yeah,
putting,
so
and there's only 2 chips,
same
right?
thing.
So yeah, it's the total distance from the hole on the 2 trips, and then the putting, the total distance from the hole on a 30-foot putt and a 15-foot putt. And so a little different.
Yeah, and they rank you along the way. So, you 1 through 10, depending on how you finish in driving, chipping, and
Right.
putting, it's not necessarily who's the longest or the best chipper per se. It's cumulative. you can have kids like Arath, for example, didn't finish first in any discipline, and she finishes third overall. Some kids never win a single discipline out there, but they balance themselves in the middle, the top half, and then they want to win the national championship. So yeah, it is unique to scoring at nationals, I will say, versus the local. So it's definitely a change of philosophy if you're trying to compete at that level. But I always say every kid who's there on the top 10 is already a winner by stepping foot on those grounds. It doesn't matter if
Oh
you're
man,
first or if you're 1 or 10 there. It doesn't really matter.
I tell people the story all the time about that place is ran so efficiently that when you get in your group, there's 10 girls in our group. There was 10 contestants. And so you get a number. So I was her caddy. So I'd get a number. And then they have little circular plaques at every station that you stand on, and that's your number. So you're moving. So there's somebody that's shuttling you around, and they say we're moving, and then you find your number. So we go and stand on our number, and then we're moving, find your number. So anyway, it was funny, but I hope that we were able to educate some folks today on just the drive to and pub, because both of us really really love this competition, and we think it's just such a great competition for a beginner or an advanced golfer, and that's the beauty of it, right? Is you can, I mean, especially in the locals and sub regionals, you can have 9 really good shots and move forward. And so the competitions begin in May, so make sure you get signed up. Rustin, what was that information again?
Yeah, it's driveturbandputt.com. Go online and register, sign up. I know Aaron spoke about how much we love this event. One of my favorite reasons is because this was actually my daughter's first win of any sorts. Before tournament, she won, had no expectations because she had only been playing golf like 2 or 3 months, if that. And we show up, and all these golfers who were actually at the time had won a lot of tournaments. And she goes out there and holes 2 of the putts.
Oh my
The
goodness.
ones that winning her age group, it was crazy.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I
What a
mean, what do you
memory
do,
though.
right? Yeah, it's funny. You're
I
like,
mean, what a
whoa.
memory. That's right. Well, man, I hope that people get out of this what we hope they're getting out of it, and they take their boy or girl out to enjoy what we've enjoyed all these times, and just really have fun. Just have fun. But Rustin, as always, man, I appreciate you being my co-pilot.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, all things related to golf.
Yes, sir. Well, enjoy, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody out there again soon. Thank you.
Yep. Enjoy us for the next week. See you guys.